Good morning, peeps. Welcome to another vlog. So we have a little bit of an interesting situation today. A few days ago, Dad went into a building and he snaked a back-to-back drain. Now, if you don't know what a back-to-back drain is, let's pop into the studio really quickly.
So peeps, I just want to pop into the studio and talk about what exactly a back-to-back drain is so that you understand what's happening through the rest of this video. Okay, so peeps, what a back-to-back drain is essentially when there are two fixtures that are connected to the same vertical pipe that will go down and distribute into the main. And you do that by means of using an appropriate double fitting. In a lot of cases, that's either a double TY or a double Y, depending on the code that's being used by your code book. Here you have an example of two kitchen sinks, okay? So what you have to know about this is that this is essentially two different units. You have unit number 1 here. So let's say it's 101. And then you have unit number 2 here, and this is 102, okay? So there's a wall separating 101 and separating 102, but the way the kitchen sinks are designed is they're installed on the same exact wall. So when somebody uses the faucet here, this kitchen sink fills up and it goes down into this drain, and then when somebody uses this kitchen sink on this side, the same thing happens. This starts to fill up and it uses the same drain as well. And the interesting things about having back-to-back drains is this pipe right here, this P-trap that goes into the double fitting, is taking the load of one unit. So in other words, whoever uses this kitchen sink is using only this pipe 1. But on the other side, whoever's using this kitchen sink is using this P-trap and using the load of only one person or one family in this dwelling. However, once you come to this communal pipe right down here, it is now taking on the load of both units. So an interesting thing that manifests is that whenever you have back-to-back sinks, from time to time you're going to have the double fitting come down with the clog, and this sort of makes a lot of sense. The double fitting in and of itself is taking on the load of both units, so it is the most susceptible to coming down with leaks, because whatever the person's putting into unit 101 and whatever the person's putting into unit 102 is eventually coming to join at this double fitting right here. So from time to time, you're going to walk into a building, unit 101's going to call you up and say, look, my sink is backing up. And then a half an hour later, unit 102 is going to call you up and say, look, my sink is backing up. And what's interesting is when somebody runs water into this unit 101, it's actually going to start filling up the sink in 102 and vice versa. 102 is going to run water just like so, and if the clog is here, what's going to happen is it's going to start filling up, and then 101's going to start seeing water come up in their sink. So they are literally dealing with the same amount of water in their sinks coming up at the same time. So the first thing is it's imperative that they know their sinks are connected behind the wall. It's a back-to-back drain. And the other thing is that you basically have to have a function of getting into this double fitting and getting down and breaking the clog rather than your snake going in, popping down and then shooting back up and going into the other person's unit, because that happens a lot. And that's what you're going to notice if you ever go into service. Back-to-back sinks take a little bit of knack to actually get. You need a special drop head to put on your snake, and you also have to hand feed until you come to that junction. Once you get to that junction, you'll be able to break through, but it might take you 1 or 2 tries to do it correctly, okay? So kitchen sinks aren't the only things that we put back-to-back. A lot of times we put water closets back-to-back depending on the way the stacks are situated, and that's what's happening in this video right here. Now that you understand that, let's get back to the video.
So now that you know what a back-to-back drain is, we actually have an interesting situation happening today, because I'm actually replacing 2 kitchen drains. Now this isn't a typical situation that happens, but if both tenants are using the back-to-back drain, don't maintain their plumbing, these sorts of things sort of happen. What I want to do is show you the materials that we use in residential type buildings, high-rise buildings, and then talk about the reasons why we use them. So we typically use one of these. These are called continuous waste, and they're designed for double compartment kitchen sinks. And we use always brass inside of buildings, because inside a residential building, especially a high rise, you're only really allowed to use copper, brass, or a fire rated plastic. Now the fire rated plastic that we would typically use is called XFR here in Ontario, but the interesting thing is XFR and brass and copper, they all are comparative in prices. The only thing that you really notice is that when you're using XFR, because it's plastic, it's a much faster material to work with, as you probably know and have seen yourself on the job site. So we use a continuous waste just like so, which goes into a TY, and you have a tailpiece on the TY as well. So you have one compartment sink and a second compartment sink just like that. And then from above, we actually use the stainless steel basket strainers, which are also a fire rated material as well. So that's one thing that you have to keep in mind. A couple of days ago, I was replacing one of these and somebody came into the unit and was asking, why do people use them? I keep seeing them rust and deteriorate, etc. And I had to let this individual know, well, look, these are the materials we're allowed to use, and you got to keep in mind they have a pretty long life expectancy depending on how you use them. So for example, if you're not using any Drano or anything that can corrode the pipe, then they should have a life expectancy of 10, 15. I've seen these go all the way up to 30 years. So they really do last quite a long time, but like anything, it depends on the wear and tear. It depends on what you're putting down the drain, in other words. And keep in mind, every material has a life expectancy. So these materials right here, they might rust over time. Sure, they might come down with holes, but plastic might not rust, but I've seen plastic break and snap and those sorts of things. So everything at some point will look like it shouldn't have been installed in the first place, but that's only because it's at the end of its life cycle, in other words. So that's why I wanted to bring up the materials, so that you knew why exactly we put these into residential high-rise building. I hope that was useful to you. So peeps, let's get to work. Let's have some fun. Oh, and by the way, peeps, you know what to do, baby. Let's go do some delicious plumbing.